The Backdoor GAA Podcast for 2023 is now brought to you by Steede Motor Group. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, visit steedemotorgroup.ie.
So delighted now to be joined by Galway minor hurler manager Fergal Healy to look back on the Galway minor hurlers season, and we'll have a brief look at the club championship as well. It felt like the perfect time to get Fergal onto the podcast. Fergal, have you been able to look back on the minor campaign yet?
Yeah, I suppose I've watched the final back a few times at this stage, and yeah, I suppose reflection on the whole championship, and obviously the final was disappointing from a performance point of view. I suppose for us, being involved with the minors for the season, like winning or losing wasn't really the focal point as such. Obviously, human nature is there, and when you play, you want to win and you try to win and all that. But I think the most disappointing aspect of the final was we just didn't turn up, for whatever reason. Clare were much better than us on the day and fully deserved the win. But hopefully, it'll be a lesson to the lads as they go forward. A lot of them you'd expect to. Will kick on with under 20s over the next 3 years, so they'll have loads of opportunities to rectify that performance anyway.
It's something Alan Glynn, the Galway minor football manager, he was on the podcast last week and he was just talking about, obviously at minor level you have development and young lads are going to want to win, and he was just saying you really do need the healthy balance between both, and I presume for yourselves it was the exact same.
Oh, absolutely. And we had an under 10 match this morning against Gort, and you try and tell them 9 and 10-year-olds that this game is for fun and winning doesn't matter, and you get it back tenfold quite quickly. So of course that is there, and when you go out to play any sort of game, you want to win the game. So it's to get that balance. Definitely, I'd agree with that. Obviously, a huge part of it is development, because it is a development age. You're dealing with 16 and 17-year-olds. So obviously they're very impressionable at that age. You're trying to get good habits into them and set them up as they go forward into the next chapter, whereas whether that be under 20, whether that be a development group, whether that be minor for the coming season again for some of them. So yeah, if you can get the balance, and look, we had it for most of the season, in fairness to the lads, they were impressive all through. And it was just unfortunately, we just didn't kick on enough in the final. But as I said, it might not be the worst thing for them. Time will tell. We obviously, like everyone, it's well documented, we've won a huge amount of minor championships, and we're kind of struggling to kick on at the next level then again. So yeah, we'll see how things go over the next few years.
How do you go about developing Galway under 17 hurlers?
I suppose, from a physical point of view, and that's when we started the job, whenever we got appointed, was back in, the track of the years at this stage, but back in, was around before Christmas, 2021. And I suppose we just looked, again, at that time of year, you get a group of lads together, and we got them set up in the gym, I suppose, that November. And a lot of them have that block of work under them, so that kicked on, and we kept it going all through last summer. They had a month's break after Tipperary beat us in the semi-final, and they were in again. So it's the same for this group. They will start their S&C, the athletic development phase. The next phase of that program for these guys starts actually tomorrow evening. So they're all back in again with Lucas and Evan Hennessy tomorrow evening, and I think that's they come to us like a really high standard player, and that's testament to the clubs and what the clubs are doing. As I said, I'm involved there with under 9s and 10s, and I have young lads playing under 7 as well. So I'm gone every week or a couple of times a week to various clubs playing underage games, and the standard is through the roof. That's even at that young age, it's phenomenal what clubs are doing. So I think in Galway we will always have a conveyor belt of good hurlers coming from the clubs. It's what we do with them when they come under our control. Then and I suppose, look, it's well highlighted, it's well documented. Everyone, I suppose, rightly or wrongly, looks at Limerick and the way the team they have at the moment, and they're up there, and everyone wants to kind of pitch themselves against those guys. But we'll always have good players in Galway. I suppose for us, it's to, improve their athletic development. And for most of the time we have them, in fairness, so as I said, we started with this group last September. So we had roughly 30 16-year-olds, 30 15-year-olds last September, and they kicked off, and that same group is there. And some of these guys, 39 of them, made a minor squad, and others would have made a Celtic Challenge group, and others then would be part of Niall Canavan and the under-16 group again this year. So you're kind of covering a lot of the bases there with those, and it's all those guys. I think we have, how many guys is it? The guts of 80 guys starting tomorrow evening again, between the guys we had on the panel and then everyone outside of that, be it Celtic Challenge or under-16 players. So we'll run that as our current management. We'll run that until September. And then in September, we will hand that over. Obviously, we're on a 2-year term at minor, so that will come up probably over the next couple of weeks and go back to the clubs. But from our point of view, we'll hand it on to whoever is next, or whatever the story may be. It's there. And I suppose we're just trying to set up a structure so that whoever is involved at minor, or, over the coming years, over the next 5 years, that they have a kind of template to work to. And I think that's important. I think it's important that the guys, especially this athletic development becomes part of their preparation when they're playing. Keep them going, and they have that collective session then, which I said with during the week. And look, at every county is doing it at the moment. McFennelly is at it down in Kilkenny with the Kilkenny under-17s as well. So this is not something we're not the only ones doing this. Like, this is happening everywhere else, and we just have to be on the ball about it and keep it going and make sure we progress it through the coming years. So, we're trying to get these guys ultimately ready to step into a senior squad and be able to probably play senior and survive at senior by the time they're 19, 20, as opposed to being 22, 23, I think. And that's probably where we're falling down a little bit in Galway at the moment. So it is.
Is that the most important aspect, do you feel, of developing those players?
Well, no, you've huge... It's one aspect of it. Obviously the hurling is a massive side of it as well, and that'll change and differ with different managements and different coaches and all that kind of thing. So, the way we tried to play this year, I think was fairly evident. The lads were very comfortable on the ball, they used the ball well, but you have to be able to mix it up as well. So we were lucky we had, the likes of Jason Rabbit, where you could go along with or go direct with as well. So I suppose for us, you're trying to, expose these guys to the various aspects of the game. Like, you look at Limerick with their short ball game and the way they use it. And, like I said, Galway learned the lesson last week when they stood off them and gave them the ball. At that level, they're going to kill you. So, but they can do it both ways as well. And I think it's important that for young guys going up through the years, that they are exposed to both types of hurling. And hurling evolves the whole time, and I'm sure another team will come with something different to what Limerick are successful with at the moment. But that's kind of the way we look at it. But it's various different aspects, and like, these guys are in school as well, so that you want to be there for them, to help them in that regard as well, and all of that. So yeah, but look, we came in from the nutritional side of things, which is hugely important, especially with the athletic development side of it. That all feeds into it. So look, everything is there and available to these guys 12 months of the year at this stage. So it's not just you come in for 6 or 7 months and that's it. But I think that's the way it has to be. That's the way it has to be going forward.
Just when you're mentioning there, athletic development, probably nutrition, video analysis, all these kind of things that these players are getting used to, is that one aspect, though, of getting them used to nearly everything that senior teams are doing? Maybe not as in depth in some areas, but just getting them used to all of this.
Yeah, it'd be like a little like management focus on analysis that much. We might have done maybe having a look at whatever team we were playing against that was coming up against us, and maybe to reflect back on the week before briefly. Like, but it was with the championship, and I suppose it's probably the same at senior. It's kind of week on week, and for us, initially we had 3 weeks in a row, and I think we had a break for maybe a week until a Leinster semi-final. So it was fairly hectic. So, but I suppose our own philosophy from it was that we really didn't focus on analysis and video analysis and stuff. And you don't want to bore these guys either. Like, I mean, I know myself, you know, and while it's important to a point, I don't think you can overdo it. And especially these are young guys. All they want to do is hurl. Like I remember back to when I was 16, 17, and the last thing I wanted to do was go into a room and someone showing video clips for an hour or something like so. We definitely didn't really. We gave them a touch of it, I suppose. But ultimately, we wanted them to enjoy it, like enjoy the whole experience. That was the most important thing. And when you're out playing hurling and doing enjoyable stuff on the pitch, I think that's the biggest side of it. The other side of it, as I said, the S&C is an education thing. That's the way it's going to be for them. If they're going to progress through the levels, this has to be part of the preparation. This has to be part of their training 12 months a year. Again, with the nutrition side of it. And that takes a lot of work. And at this age group, obviously they're under 17, under 16, 17, you know, you're dependent on nanny and daddy having everything, you know, from the nutrition side of things at home. So yeah, look, we had a few kind of workshops online with Karen during the year with the parents as well as the players, like, because obviously these guys are all still living at home, so it's not a case where they have that. But look, it gives them an insight into what's ahead of them and what they need to get used to doing.
And just a point you did touch on earlier before we touch on the minor journey this year, you mentioned there about maybe it's taken some players in a Galway senior setup when they're coming from minor under 20s or under 21s that they've been at 22 or 23 to come through. But why has that been, do you think? Did I lose you there, Fergal?
Sorry, just bear with me a second.
No, yeah.
Apologies. Can you hear me?
You can. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
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 Sorry, Paul. Yeah, you were just saying about how it takes so long, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at it. It's a difficult thing, I think, to manage. But I think we are doing a relatively good job of it. Like, if you look to last Sunday and you look at maybe not so much on the first 15, but definitely on the panel as such, like, you had a lot of guys in around 2021, like probably more guys. I think we had more guys in our subs than most other teams had. Like, we've a lot of guys involved. I think the thing for them is, and for the senior management going forward, is that they'll know themselves. They probably need to just expose these guys to more game time, expose the Tiernan Killings and Gavin Lees and TJ Brennans and Liam Collinses and all of these guys that they have in there, Sean O'Hanlon. They're all brilliant players. You'll see them playing in the senior championship in the coming weeks. And I think the more exposure they get to maybe National League and Walsh Cup and all that, and take the pressure off the older lads, the Garage Max and Joseph Cooney and the Manions and Dahi and these guys, because they do need help, and it's still like them older guys are fantastic, but in this day and age, to try and stay 75 minutes toe to toe with a team that's a good bit younger than you, it's tough going. Watching the tennis there this afternoon, Djokovic is up against Alcaraz there, it's like watching a miniature or a version of Djokovic as a young guy, and I suppose he wants to prolong that match as long as possible, and Djokovic is trying to finish it as quick as possible. So, and he's 15 years, I think, senior than Alcaraz. So I think we do need to try, and there's plenty of good hurlers in Galway. There's more than enough of them. Of course, everyone will say, sure, where are they to replace these guys at this point in time? Today they mightn't be there to replace them or ready to replace them today or tomorrow. But over the next 8 or 9 months, 10 months again, we have the raw material there, just to expose them. And when these guys get the chance, they have to grasp it as well. Like when you're hitting 21, 22 at this stage, these guys have to stand up and be counted as well, and take a bit of, when they are given the chance, they need to grasp it with two hands and try and nail down a position as well.
So would you see Galway as a county being in a better position when you look at these players coming through compared to previous years, if you look at this year, for example?
Yeah, I do. I genuinely think there's plenty of players there. I do. And I mean, you're like, off that 2020-21 minor side, like there is a lot of players in there in the squad at the moment. There's probably more to go into it. Alex Cunningham from Sarsfield's just one off the top of my head. Ian McGlynn, I think, was on the extended panel there as well. There's plenty of those guys in it. You're not going to get 6 or 7 lads off every minor side, but I suppose you're going to have a minor side every so often where you're going to get maybe 5, 6, 7. And I suppose it's to get that a little bit more regularly, isn't it? With the 2015 minor team that won with Jeffrey, and you have a lot of those involved at the moment, and they are probably the group of guys now that really need to take hold of this senior squad and drive it on. The Fintons and Jack Grealishes, Tom Monaghan's, Beano's, all these guys were playing that time. I know I'm leaving out a couple more lads there, but these guys need to be the driving force for Galway going forward. And again, if you can add 3 or 4 guys to that and try and make the team and the squad more competitive, and that's the objective of any management going in taking over a team.
Just on the minor journey, then, is it something that you really enjoyed this year?
Yeah, you only get involved in any of this kind of stuff for enjoyment, for me anyway. And yeah, look, I had a good group of guys with me in the management, and we had a fantastic group of players. We had a fantastic group of parents that brought all these guys all over Galway to training. And again, I said, bringing them over to Clarenbridge to the gym there, or Loch George to the gym, kicking off again tomorrow evening. So, we wouldn't have any of that without the parents, and they were a pleasure to deal with. Again, the players were fantastic. They were like sponges. They're at a good age where you can give them a lot of, I suppose, a lot of tips and, from the coaching side of things, all of that. But yeah, look, it was hugely enjoyable. Yeah, I definitely probably the most enjoyable group I would have been involved with to date anyway. Yeah, for sure, regardless of what age it was. You
assembled quite a management team, it's safe to say, this year, even when you look at your selectors, Joe Canning and James Gale, who started for Galway, Ian McCleary has been involved with Sarsfield's, Port Duddy, and as well as former Clarenbridge and Galway hurler Mark Kearns. That was a management team that stood out to a lot of people early on there.
Well, I suppose these are guys that have given a lot to Galway, so they have. And I suppose I'm conscious, especially Joey and James, they're not long finished, and I'm sure other clubs, other counties would have been knocking on their door. I've no doubt they probably still are. But from my point of view, I think we should be keeping all these guys in Galway as much as possible. We have enough teams and enough players and stuff to try and get right ourselves. And look, it's for Joe and James as well. It's probably starting out to see, from them, they're still obviously playing club and all that, but from an inter-county point of view, they're not long finished. And I suppose going in at this level, it's a nice age group to work with. It's not hugely time consuming, versus senior. So I think it was a nice fit for them guys, and it gave them an idea of give them a grasp of coaching and that side of it, because they're starting out of that. So look, at everybody would have learned from each other in the setup. Eamon has huge experience from Sarsfields, obviously. He's still playing away himself. Mark, is involved in every team in Clarenbridge as far as I can see, hurling and camogie. So, very knowledgeable, was a fantastic player. And again, Pádraig would have been leading up all the coaching. So, yeah, look, it was a strong setup from that point of view. And I think, and we've different personalities there in the management, so you had Pádraig and James would be probably having the crack with the boys, and myself and Eamon and Joe were probably a bit more serious with them. So you need a bit of a balance with everything. And I think the lads themselves would have enjoyed the experience, and definitely as a management, we thoroughly enjoyed it.
From a forward perspective, to have Joe Canning working with these minor forwards must have been something that was only a positive, I presume.
I think so, yeah. I mean, like, if lads aren't going to, pay attention to what Joe's going to say to you, or a bit of advice he might give to lads, but I think it was evident, even the last 2 years, like we have good players in Galway. Like, obviously we're there. We just, for me, it's facilitating all of this to happen, and trying to pull as good a management group together as possible, and we all kind of work in conjunction with each other. Like, you had Evan Hennessy as well. A leash man there living in Athenry, hurling with Rahun, and he looked after the S&C with Lucas, but a great personality as well, like, and really has a really strong relationship with the lads. And I think that's important as well, like, that you do develop these relationships with the lads, and you get on and they trust you. But yeah, look at when Joe is there telling you, giving you, lads tips, whether it's free taking or movement, or, whatever way they strike the ball. And lads, I think, will take that on board, so they will. And but it's the same with James, with the keepers, with the lads he had last year and again this year. Like, the standard of goalkeeping is fairly high. You look at Donagh Fahy last year; he was excellent. I think he got on the team of the year, and the same again with Shane this year, like, definitely one of our best players in the season. So I think you can't underestimate having the likes of those guys and letting them, those come back, giving that bit back and working with this young age group. And again, look, it gives the boys a taste of coaching and that side of it, and they can decide themselves, as they move up through the ranks, or whether it's something they want to do or not want to do.
Did you find it tough as a management team to deal with the expectation that surrounded this squad? Because, like, it's fair to say people were labeling this Galway minor team as a really special minor team. Is that tough to deal with, that expectation, when you consider these lads are only 15, 16?
Sure, look at that kind of happens in Galway quite a lot. Like, it's easy enough to excite people, so it is. I've seen it before with other minor teams and all that. Like, so, nah, not really. Like, I mean, like, we done well in Leinster, but we knew full well, like, that the Munster Championship was obviously more competitive. Teams were definitely more evenly balanced, and there was a lot of tough games there. So we knew Clare were coming, and they had a lot behind them. Like, so again, look, you can only guard these guys. We only have them for whatever we have them, 3 or 4 hours a week between the few sessions and whatever you do at the weekend. And so it's something they learn. I think they learn themselves. Maybe some of that patting on the back stuff got into their heads before the final. It's probably hard to guard against it, and maybe that was part of the reason we just didn't perform. Maybe we just thought, well, this is going to happen like it happened in all the previous games through Leinster in the semi-final. But in the semi-final, like, we had a tough battle with a really good Cork team, and they came back at us hard and brought us back to 3 points. And I remember at the time, I think Colin Burke had a shot that went to Hawkeye, and it gave us that 2 or 3 minute delay and that set us up for the rest of the game. So Cork were a good side, and we got goals at the right time, and we kicked on. And against Clare, we started well. We went 3 points up, but we had a lot of bad wides. We did, a few wrong decisions that probably would have settled us. And then every time Clare attacked, they seemed to score. So yeah, hopefully, I said, the lads will learn from this, and at least they'll spend the next 6 months now, and they'll have a cause when they move on for, as I said, whatever they move on to next year, whether it's the lads staying with minor or the lads moving on to 20. So, they know they didn't perform on the biggest day, and hopefully that's something that they want to rectify.
Just on that, Iron Island is a name that's really exciting Galway hurling fans at the minute. Was that tough? Like, would there have to be conversations with him not to listen to any of that?
Aaron is from a brilliant family there. Fantastic parents, and he has Evan there at home as well. His sister's involved with Galway Camogie, Niamh as well. So, like, Aaron knows himself. Like, he's a really intelligent, grounded young fella. He's a quiet young fella and loves hurling. And I think we're lucky to have him in Galway. And I think, you know, hopefully going forward, we'd see how good he's going to be. And yeah, look, he's an exciting talent. But there's a good few exciting guys there that I can't wait to see progress over the next 5 years, 4 or 5 years, 3 years, hopefully, as soon as possible. And for us to see maybe 5 or 6 of those guys maybe progress and be senior players in 4 to 5 years' time, or 3 to 5 years' time, you know, and that would be a better measure of success for me anyway, as an under-17 management, as part of an under-17 management. I would look at that as more successful, to be honest with you, than lifting a minor cup now.
Is that the aim now, while you're over this minor team, to get as many players through to senior as possible?
Yeah, for us, well, look, we can only get them onto the next level, like, and that's on to under 20. But we need to, when they come to us, we need to take them and put them in a better place to move on to under 20, really. Because obviously we have some of them, we'll have them, you know, a lot of the group we probably had for 2 years, but like next year's minors, I think we had 12 or 13 of them were on the panel of 39. So that's quite a chunk of players there that have had great experience for the last year, and hopefully they'll kick on. But yeah, for us, all we can do is take them in and give them 12 months or so, and hopefully give them on to the next group or next management, whoever that is, at whatever level that is, and in a good place. Yeah. And then ultimately you're trying to give these guys good habits, and hopefully not all of them will kick on and play senior, but you know, you'd hope that those that don't turn around and be really good club players and you know, show up in the club championship over the years, like, because that's the way it works. You're not going to get them all. They're not all going to play senior for Galway, but you would hope that they'll all stay playing and I said, show up well for their clubs in the higher grades through the years.
Just with I suppose, from the start of getting into the Leinster Championship, like, I know talking to Paul Bellew, there was massive work put in to get into that Leinster Championship. But how much of a positive was that? Because, like, if you compare your games this year to, like, it was a much larger, significant amount of games you've got this year compared to your previous year where you came up short against Tipperary.
Yeah, it was incomparable, really, to be honest with you. Albeit it was late in the day when we found out about it. But yeah, no, like I said, it was the most enjoyable experience I suppose we've had as a management, in that we had 7 days out, we had 7 championship matches, we had 7 days where we were gone on a bus together, and we had all of that. Like, so it meant the players themselves, I suppose, bonded a lot more because they were together more frequently. And I think as we went through the games, you know, a lot of players got game time, and we improved with the games. And I think it showed that all the way through. And definitely, it needs to be a prerequisite, really, for Galway going forward, especially at this grade that we are in under 17 in Leinster again for the coming season and past that, because you can't replicate games. And hopefully these 7 games will stand to those young guys now over the coming years, and will help them, you know, be good under 20 players and maybe, you know, improve our record or under 20 now. Like, you know, hopefully that'll be a fair reflection on getting into Leinster. So again, like, fair play to Paul and Claude and Damien and everyone that helped out in that regard, because it was a massive job to get in there, really, and there was a lot of resistance. But in fairness, they stuck at it and they were successful. And I think it's been a hugely successful year for us anyway, as a group, to experience all that.
Presume from your own perspective, initially when you came in, there was obviously frustration there, but then when you see the games in Leinster and everything, and even you see Galway winning their first ever Leinster title this year at minor level, like, that's definitely an accomplishment, I'm sure, that you took satisfaction in. But to just see the two kind of contrasts as well.
Yeah, like, sure, like last year our first game was around, I think, the 22nd or 3rd of May, roughly around that, and we were playing at Clare, who had come through a tough Munster campaign. And to be honest, we beat them well on the day, but to be fair, they had been beaten on penalties after extra time in a Munster final 10 days previous. So
was there a danger there with your kind of first year where you didn't actually know where this team was at when you're going into that stage?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, sure. Look at it. When you have a new bunch of players that you get at the likes of minor level, so they've never played together before, and you're coming up against teams there and that have gone through a Munster campaign. The only thing is, you'd fully trust the guys, Porrick, Joe, James, Eamon, and Mark, that the work that they had done, that we'd done with the lads, was up to the level required, and like that showed. We looked after Clare quite well that day. Again, I'd say I don't think Clare were at their best. They were after coming after probably a deflating defeat, but they picked it up again then after that, and they got to the semi-final against Offaly, similar to ourselves. So I don't think you can underestimate the games though, because the games improve, lads. And again, we came in last year mid-May. I think we were nearly in the final this year at that stage by the time we played our first game last year. And then we had Laois following week, so we played 2 games, one Saturday after the other. And then the semi-final against Tip. And obviously Tip had came through a fairly tough campaign, successful campaign, but we led that game in injury time, and they came back and got a goal, and obviously they were lucky against Offaly in the final. So I think both years were knocking on the door, and I think once you're thereabouts, shows that something right is being done and that the players are at the required level. Again, I keep alluding to it. It's trying to hopefully get them on to the next level now, at under 20, and again be more competitive. Really, I suppose maybe the importance of winning silverware at that level is a little bit more important than under 17. But ultimately try and get these guys onto senior within the next 2 to 3 years. Yeah.
Just that Clare All-Ireland final, you mentioned there, maybe just your shooting, taking the wrong option in the first half, and maybe you didn't know why you didn't perform on that day. Can you look back and take positives from that game, or is there still elements where you look back with a bit of frustration at that?
You look back with frustration, of course you do. But I think the positives is just the experience that the lads got. There was some passages where they played okay, but ultimately you look at that game and you look at all our other games, and it's very hard to pick a huge amount of positives. And I think the players would agree with me there. But ultimately, I think they have to take that experience as something hugely positive, really. And to play in front of such a big crowd, I think by the second half, or when we came in alone, I think one of the stands was almost full with Offaly people. So that was even before our game, probably an hour before our throw-in. So, you had probably good to 30,000 there for most of the second half, which was probably, great experience for them. And you should stand to them going forward, yeah.
And how was it picking them up from an All-Ireland final defeat?
Look, young lads are resilient. They'll bounce back from it a lot quicker than I will. So they will. But they were grand. They enjoyed the whole experience. And I suppose you're trying to tell them, while it is hugely disappointing not to get over the line, at the end of the day, it's not the most important thing. Look, I said I was coaching the 2019 minor team with Brian Hanley, and we were successful that year. And you're looking at, again, it was successful in that we won a cup, but it'd be more, you get more satisfaction out of it if you've seen, I said Alex Cunyer and Gavin Lee and Owen Lawless and Ian McLean and Sean O'Hanlon and that group of players kicking on and playing in National League games next year. Then okay, they got a good experience at that level, and they're progressing. So yeah, look, at young lads are resilient. I know they've met up a few times themselves, and they went to the next Galway game. They went off as a group themselves as well, and I know they've met up regularly. So I think that bond is there with that group, and I think it's there because they spent so much time together, albeit travelling to and from matches, as opposed to training week on week and only having 2 or 3 games in the season. So again, hopefully that will stand to them over the coming years.
Were you able to meet up as a group after a few weeks after the game or anything?
Yeah, we met last Friday 2 weeks. So we did. We actually had a testing session with Lucas and Evan. So yeah, look, we had, I think 36 guys out of the 39 were there. A few guys were just away. But yeah, look, I said Lucas tested them and get them set up. I said for the next phase of their development, or that athletic development is starting tomorrow. So, but we had a good chat that evening, and we kind of just a quick recap, I suppose, on the season. But again, for me and for the lads, it's about looking forward as opposed to looking backwards. They've all kind of probably had a chance to look back in the game, and for them players themselves, it's what they need to look at, you know, their prep, you know, for maybe the couple of weeks beforehand, and maybe what changed in that regard. Because, and we're the same as management. I'm not, you know, abdicating responsibility there or anything. Like we have, you know, we've been looking and, you know, scratching your head like, would you change anything from what you did before the other games? But look, at a final as a final, takes on a life of its own, and sometimes it's very hard to guard against some of the stuff that's going on out there. But again, hopefully it's a lesson learned for them.
Would you hope to stay on after this 2-year term?
Yeah, I should look at it again. It's a 2-year term, so this job will go back out to the clubs for nominations there in the next week or two, and we'll see what happens really after that. To be honest with you, like, you know, we've given it a good rattle. I think for the last 2 years, it's been very enjoyable. You know, whether we stay in situ for another year or so or two, it's not really my decision, to be honest with you. It'll come down to the county board and the clubs and that's just the way it is. But yeah, look, it's been an enjoyable couple of years, and whatever happens, I suppose.
Just with that as well, Fergal, there, we're talking about the minors getting them players through to the 20s, but obviously there's a lot of talk at the minute with the seniors coming up short last weekend against Limerick in that semi-final. For you now, where is Galway senior hurling at?
Look, I suppose it's probably at a little bit of a crossroads in that it is, you know, everybody knows we need more injection of more younger players, and but that's probably going to take a little bit of time. Whether National League next year is enough to bring on 3 or 4 lads, 5 lads maybe, and get them up to championship level, time will tell. Like, but we're definitely at a situation where I think you can't keep depending on the older guys to get you through 70, 75 minutes of championship hurling anymore. I think them guys have given huge service, and you want to keep them all. Absolutely, their experience is invaluable, but I think they need help, and I think they need help. I think the younger guys need to stand up now and be counted and push on and start, you know, taking positions on the team, as I alluded to earlier. We need that. Like, we need 5 or 6 guys to come through that National League next year, if that's possible, and try and take place on that senior team.
Is that the thing that's needed for Galway to reach the Holy Grail?
Look, they're not far off it. Like, to be fair, like, you know, there's, like, I think Limerick are an exceptional team. I think they're a good bit ahead of most teams, and I think once they got through that Munster Championship and they had their break there for a few weeks, they seem to be gone up another level. I think that was evident in the second half. You know, Galway were well on top for 25 minutes or so, and were doing the right stuff. But I think there was, you know, Limerick were working through their gears as well. Like, they had been off for 2 weeks, and they were probably finding their feet a little as well. So they're going to be a tough side to beat. I don't think they're going anywhere for the next couple of years either. They're still a relatively young squad, but look, if they can't stay there forever either, and it's usually cyclical enough. Like, so another group will come, and hopefully Galway will be knocking around that group.
With that, it's probably about, you talked there about adding players, and like the names you're mentioning there, Liam Collins and all those, you expect that they're going to get their chance next year. But probably important for Henry Shepton and this group to retain players as well, because like there is players pushing on, but you don't really want any of these players to be retiring.
No, Jesus, no, absolutely not. Like, because like even like them players, you know, at different stages this year were super. Like, you know, I mean, like Dahi Burke he definitely got man of the match a couple of times. It was thereabouts. Garage Mack, like, is a huge competitor, like, and like a huge guy for lads to look up to. Like, his attitude, the way he trains, the way he minds himself, like, all of these guys have huge attribute. You know, you need to keep them involved in it. Like, definitely, like Davy Burke was a huge loss to that group. Like, definitely a leader. And you know, I suppose since with Davy not there this year, you know, Joe gone last year, you've got two very vocal, I suppose, leaders on the pitch not there, and maybe we were lacking a bit of that, like with some of our older guys, but because a lot of them will lead with the way they play as opposed to talking about it. So, but it is, as you said earlier, like it's important that the likes of Joe and Joe Cooney and Garage Mack and these guys stay around, and that the senior management keep them, because I think they're a brilliant influence on what's coming behind them, and they definitely have a role to play. But again, it may not be for a 70-minute game. It may be 70 minutes in some games, depending on who you're playing. But we probably do need, and they know themselves, they need to. We need to strengthen the squad a little bit. Yeah.
When you worked with the Galway senior hurlers under Shane O'Neill in 2020, 2021, like you obviously know up close and personal how much leaders them players are.
Yeah, and like they are, like them guys would have really, like, you know, they're a fantastic bunch. I have huge respect for them. They, like every, I suppose, senior squad now, like they do everything like to get there. Like I was down at the physio in Athenry yesterday, and I seen Cathal Mannion in the gym like yesterday morning down in Athenry. Like, so that, you know, it doesn't stop for these guys. Like they'll do as much as they can. But I suppose, again, I just came back to the fact, like, more so the guys that have been there for the last 3 or 4 years and 10 years, whatever it is, they need help now. Like, so they need these younger guys to start pushing them a little bit harder. Like, we need to be pushing all of these guys a little bit harder on the pitch. But like, we are finding players as well, like Jack Grealish and Tom Monaghan, kind of, they've got new lease of life over the last 2 years with Henry and the lads, and have turned into two seriously good players. I think Darren Morrissey is turning into a fine player now. Like, he's definitely a leader in that group. And then like TJ Brennan, I thought was very good at times this year, and probably a little bit unlucky to lose his place, but a really good player as well. And Kevin Cooney, it looks like he's a forward that's going to take one of those forward berths. And Evan, of course, like, has been an unbelievable free taker for us. So, like, the lads are developing players. I suppose it's developing lads a little bit more now to strengthen our panel.
With that, we had David Glennon on the podcast a few weeks ago. He was talking about how when he got dropped off the senior panel, it was the same time Tom Monaghan got dropped. And he was just saying, like, since that, he's seen his development. As an own club man, have you seen how much he's developed since that time?
Yeah, look, that was a tough time, especially for me being part of the management, and I playing with Tom in Crowell, and being good friends with Tom and his brothers and his family and all that. And I spoke to Tom on numerous occasions at the time. But look, at Tom, he's an unbelievable competitor, and, like, you know, during those COVID times, I remember being down, you know, obviously places were closed and certain places were closed, and the amount of times I would have seen him down there, maybe with one other guy, maybe one of his brothers, doing hard sessions on his own. Like, the work that Tom put in, probably mostly in 2021, really, like, to get back up for the following and to get brought back onto the panel, is a testament to him, like, because nobody worked harder than Tom Monaghan, and I can safely say that from what I seen myself. And like, I worked with him, we myself and Brian were involved with the Crowell lads we got to the semi-final in 22, like, and Tom was exceptional for us. But like, Tom went away and physically developed himself though as well, like, and, you know, Tom knew he had to work on his pace, like, and that's something now that he has. He's one of our quickest players, and he's an ideal player, like, with the way the game has gone, to play around that middle third area and look for and be a link man. And he knows himself, he probably has to work a little bit harder with his use of the ball, like, but, you know, when Tom gets on a lot of ball, he's guarantee you probably 3 or 4 points from playing a game. And again, with a year on, again, I'm sure with his experience and his use of the ball will improve as well. Like, but yeah, look, it was a tough time, very tough time for Tom. But I think it's a testament to him. Like, some guys could have younger lads like that might have thrown in the towel. But for the likes of Jack and for the likes of Tom to come back and nail places on the team for the last 2 years, you'd have nothing but respect for them. And, like, hopefully they'll keep it going for another good few years to come.
I'd say that was a really tough experience there, as you're talking about, like, to have, like, obviously it wasn't your full decision in the end, like dropping off the panel, but being involved in the setup and like ultimately the players do get dropped and stuff. But I'd say from your own perspective, that was a real tough decision and difficult time.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but sure, look, it's tougher for Tom. Like, it was, as opposed to, it's not a nice situation for me to be in. But when you're in management, and look, I had a good bit of experience with our own lads as well. I was playing and managing our own seniors for a good few years, so there was plenty of hard phone calls to be made, and that's part of it when you are in management. Unfortunately, it's not the nice part of it, but it's the part of it. I'm sure every manager would say the same thing. Like, it's when you're making those calls or you're involved in that decision making, it's not easy. It's not nice, and it's, look at however tough it is for a management, it's a lot tougher for the player that's receiving that information. So again, the really, really good players, the really strong-minded players will take that knock and use it to build themselves back up again and come back as stronger players. And I think that couldn't be more evident than Tom Monaghan. Like, I've nothing but huge admiration, huge respect for him. He's, like, as I said, I'm involved with our 9s and 10s there, and he's our he's our main player in the club, and someone that everybody looks up to, like myself, and older players and the kids themselves. Like, he's an idol around Crowell, and we're very lucky to have him in the club as a senior player for Galway. I think he's one of the better lads there, and we're lucky to have him, and thankfully he came back and showed us that it was the wrong decision at the time, and to kick on and made the team for the last few years.
That's a really important thing in any club, though, having a player in a county setup.
Yeah, look, it is important. And I suppose over the last 10 or 12 years in our own club, we've had a good few guys there, in around it. Like, so it does, like, and I mean, it gives you that. I think I find it more important, I think, for the younger players, that there's someone there they see on the television, or they go to games, earlier on in the season, they're in the stadium or wherever, and they see one of your own club players that's down at the pitch with them. Like, and Tom is there this week there and next week with the cool camps in Crowell himself, and Keenan Fahy I'll mention as well, and our Drahan man just lives up the road from me here where I live, but he's our GDA there in the club, and like, he's a great guy to have around as well. Like, so I suppose a lot of our young guys really look up to Keenan and look up to Tom. Obviously, Tom being a Crowell player, but Keenan does a lot of work in our schools as well, and definitely another guy that the young guys really look up to. So yeah, no, it's great to keep the guys at it, because look, there's so much out there for young guys at the moment, different sports and different codes and that, and obviously we want them hurling, and to have someone like him around the club is important, and yeah, very beneficial.
The club championship in the hurling now is approaching Fergal, 3 weeks away, as far as I'm aware. There's a different dynamic this year. Obviously, in Senior A, you have your 4 groups of 4, and it's fairly cutthroat as well. If you look at it this year, like with your 4 groups of 4, top 2 only coming out.
Yeah, it is, but I think it's no harm, and I think it'll add to the championship. I think it's well timed. We got down to 16 teams. And it should be a good championship, and every game is important. And I think the championship is evening up out a bit. Like, obviously, St. Thomas's are probably a little bit ahead of everybody else, going on all they've won for the last few years, and definitely the team to beat. But look, at everyone goes into it with a good bit of optimism, and everyone can be taken down on any particular day. So I'm sure clubs are really ramping things up at the moment to get ready for 3 weeks' time.
Do you still expect Thomas's to win this year?
Yeah, I think they'll be thereabouts. Yeah, I do. I think they're the team to beat. They're getting back Shane Cooney and David Sherry there as well. Like, so they're only getting stronger, and I've no doubt David Burke will be back at some stage if they get through the earlier rounds. If anyone is going to get back from a cruciate as fast as possible, it'll be Davy Burke. So I'd expect to see him at some stage as well. But you know what, Thomas's have dealt without big players for the last few years, and it hasn't hampered them. Like, so I know they've lost David, but they've gained 2 really good players back again. So yeah, look, at the moment I can't see anyone to stop them now.
Just with that, obviously Loughrea challenged them last year. They're one team. I know it's early on and you can't read too much into Club Hurling League, but they did win it, and they look strong again this year. So you would expect them to be challenging Thomas's this year.
Yeah, there's probably a few clubs, the likes of Loughrea, the likes of Turlock, and these guys who have a good age profile and a lot of good young players. Like, so yeah, it probably is a big year for Loughrea now. Obviously they did a good league campaign there again, and they have a lot of good quality young players, and I've seen it myself there firsthand. Like, so, you know, even with the guys we have at minor this year, they'll be kicking on for next year with them. So they're doing a lot of good work in Loughrea, and I'm sure Tommy and the lads there, they'll definitely be knocking on the door. They'll want to. Their main objective this year would be to lift that Tom Conlon Cup, and they'll probably be disappointed if they don't. But I think there's a few teams in the same bracket. Like, so yeah, be interesting.
You still enjoying playing intermediate hurling, Fergal?
Still enjoying, yeah. I still enjoy playing, trying anyway. Yeah, look, I suppose for us and the second team in the club, we'd have a lot of young players. So I suppose if you can help out any of these guys in any way you can, like, you know, even though I'm pushing on a good bit at this stage, but it's nice to get down there for a couple of hours a week and hit a few balls. And once the body holds up and I can contribute on some level, yeah, we keep it going. Yeah, look, can't play forever, and I'm definitely running out of time at this stage. So, but I find it enjoyable. It's grand. You're going down there, and again, there's a lot of young guys down there, and it's a good way of connecting with them and having a bit of crack and stuff. And for me, that's the most important thing at my stage anyway. It's enjoyment. No more than I said, being part of the management, the minor management. It's, you do stuff like this while you enjoy it and while I'm able. So I know I'm running out of time, and I know I'll be longer when I won't be able to do anything. But at the moment, if I can contribute and keep it going, yeah, we'll give it a go anyway.
Good stuff. Well, that's all we have time for on our podcast for today. A massive thank you to Fergal Healy for coming on.